What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm sorry. I'm not. Did I wake you up? Oh, puppy. Hi, baby. Hello. I wanted to check in. I just finished Tuesdays with Morrie yesterday, and this was a buddy read with my friend Kristen over at Enter the Book. I'm not going to say we had a good time reading this together because it's such a morbid subject, but we did have fun talking about other things while we were reading this together. So the first time I read this book, I want to say it was in 99. And so I would have been 21, 22, something like that. I was going through the hardest time of my life that I've ever gone through. And this book helped me get through it. And it helped me make some decisions that I needed to make about my life and my future. And so if I ever did a video on here about books that changed my life, this would be one of them. So when I originally read it, and I read it quite a few times back then as I was trying to go through this life-changing moment, I dog-eared the pages. And as you can see, I dog-eared a lot of them. And I thought, I'm just going to leave that there. And I went ahead and put tabs in there this time. And I was surprised that there were so many pages that I didn't feel the same way about this time, or pages that had an excerpt that I really loved that apparently didn't mean much to me when I was younger and I read it. I think it's interesting how much things change over time in our lives. And while I still thought this was a good book, it did not hit me anywhere near as hard as it did when I was in my early 20s. I think so much of what's in here are things that I feel like I've learned at this point, and I feel like it's just kind of a reminder to think about certain things or concentrate on certain things. But when I was in my 20s, it was this mind-blowing, I've never even thought of that kind of book, right? And who knows, maybe part of why I feel like I already know these things is because I read it so many times in my early 20s. I'm not sure. But I have noticed when I did a search on this book, there's so many people that appear to be in their teens and 20s that are still reading this book now. And I think it's amazing that it has stood the test of time. And I think it is really epic for younger people. So it's about a guy who graduated from college, I want to say it was 16 years ago, and he finds out that his professor that he really loved and was close with is passing away from ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. And he reaches out to him, and they end up meeting every week on Tuesdays. And Morrie talks to him about different things that he learned in his life and different thoughts and feelings he's having now that his life is coming to a close. And it was a very beautiful, sweet book. And it's got so much in it, from forgiveness, understanding, forgiving ourselves, even being at peace with our past or with ourselves or with other people, how important friends and family are, how Morrie started feeling about his body as his body started disintegrating. I definitely recommend it to anybody. And then the other book that I finished so far this week was this book. I cannot remember the name. I'm sorry. I listened to it, so it was so hard to remember the name. But it was the second book in the Desert Plains series by Victor Methos. I thought it was really good. It was not as amazing to me as the first book, but it was still really, really good. I would say his writing is pretty similar to Harlan Coben. So if you like Harlan Coben, definitely check out this series. I am now listening to the third book in the series. I decided to just, one right after the other, nail them out. Who's my silly girl? Mwah. There's sirens outside, far in the distance, and there's these puppies that are howling, and there's a dog that's howling at the puppies, and then Olive is getting upset at all of it. Huh? She doesn't want to hear any of it. So there's now a helicopter flying around looking for someone. I pity the fool that comes into our yard because Olive is not in the mood right now. Do you hear all that barking and howling out there? Some of it's Olive, but... That's one of the things we liked about this neighborhood when we first came here, because I wanted to feel really safe, you know, when Brad goes out of town and stuff. And we pulled up and we got out of the car, and there was dogs in every direction barking. And we thought, this is the neighborhood. Because you're always alerted of everything going on, and if you were up to no good, this probably wouldn't be where you'd want to do whatever it is that you're planning on doing. Also, we had it's a 2.1 or 2.3 earthquake here, and I didn't feel it, but I heard it. It sounded like somebody slammed the roof and then went rolling down the roof. And a lot of people said that that's what they heard as well, but I don't know if anybody felt it. I know Brad said that his water on his desk was moving, like in the glass a little bit, like a dinosaur was walking around in the backyard or something. But yeah, it was kind of like a rumbling sound. And a lot of people said they heard the same thing. I heard it. Brad heard it. Earthquakes in Vegas. And then I read there was another one in Vegas a couple days ago that I didn't feel or hear, but this is weird. I don't remember Vegas being a earthquake place. Maybe it is. I'm here with my co-host Olive. I finished listening to An Unreliable Truth by Victor Methos. That was the third book in the Desert Plains series. I think that this series was amazing. Every book in it was 4 or 5 stars. I think the third book, The Unreliable Truth, was my favorite out of all 3. It was just amazing. The characters in the book were very... I found myself getting very attached to them. They're very human characters. You know, they have flaws. They're not perfect. I found myself very surprised by different things that happen in the book. And I was just very entertained the whole way through. It was hard to stop listening to it. If you are in a reading slump and you like suspense books or mysteries, I really recommend this whole series. Just pick up the first one and just go all the way through. The first one's called The Killer's Wife. And I think that will pull you right out of your slump if you are in one. Because, wow. I'm having a hard time moving on to a different author as far as my listening goes. I'm tempted to just do nothing but listen to his books until I've heard every one of them. But I don't want to fall into that rut where I'm just all about one author for so much of the time. But boy, it's hard not to do that because that's how good the series was. And I'm really looking forward to listening to more of his books in the future or reading them, whichever. If you've read any of his series that aren't the Desert Plains series and you really enjoyed them, let me know which ones, because he's got so many books, I'm a little overwhelmed at where to start. I did a buddy read with my friend Dia over at Novel Idea, and it was Books Can Be Deceiving by Jenn McKinlay, and this is the first book in the A Library Lover's Mystery series. In this book, we follow Lindsay. Lindsay has moved to Briar Creek, Connecticut recently. She went through a bad breakup and she got a new job at this library. She's a librarian. And she seems to really be settling into this town really well. The reason that she moved to this town is her best friend lives in Briar Creek. Her best friend's name is Beth. And it's just such a good, cozy mystery book. She's got a group of friends that gets together, I think it's once a week, to knit together while they talk about a book that they read. I love that. I'm a crocheter myself, but I still find reading about knitting to be just as wonderful. She's got a really nice group of friends that are very supportive of her, and they're all just very loving towards each other, and they're honest too, which I really like. I would say the way that I'm so in love with Krista Davis's Domestic Diva series and that group of friends, I feel that way about the group of friends in this book as well. Her best friend Beth, who she went to college with, she breaks up with this guy. He does something atrocious, and she finds out about it after they break up. And she goes to confront him, and they find that he has been killed. And so, of course, the cops think it was her. And Lindsay decides to try to find out who did do it to get her friend off the hook. I really enjoyed that the author didn't make it to where Lindsay is some sleuth who just loves trying to outsmart the cops and has just made it her mission to try to solve every case that comes into the town that she lives in. She fell into it because she was trying to help out a friend who was being accused of something that she knew for a fact she didn't do. One of the things that I really enjoyed while reading this book was the author talks about characters' past, but she does it in a way that is really refreshing. She does it in a couple sentences or a paragraph and then moves right on. She just kind of sprinkles it in. It's not an entire chapter devoted to one moment in someone's childhood or anything like that. And I just found it so refreshing that it wasn't so drawn out hearing about the past. It was just enough to where it felt like I was able to get to know the characters better and their relationships better, but not to the point where I felt exhausted. One thing that Dia and I both felt that the library could use would be a dog or a cat. And also the protagonist, Lindsay, does not have a dog or a cat. We're both animal people, well, as you can tell. Now, we have decided to go ahead and read the next book together. We'll probably, I'm thinking at this point, read the whole series together. We just loved this book, and we thought that it was really refreshing and positive. It picked my mood up every day reading it. I loved reading it in the morning right after I woke up to really just kind of help start out the day on a happy, whimsical foot. And the cover of the next book has a dog on it. So we're hoping that means that either Lindsay will get a dog or they will get a dog for the library. But I really recommend this book. I think if you are a cozy mystery fan, you'd really love it. And if you're interested in trying cozy mysteries, but you have never read one, I think this might be a really good one to dip your toe into the pool and see if you like the way it feels. For AJ Dunn's Killer Reads Book Club, the selection for March was In the Woods by Tana French. The way her ear went up like, ooh, really? Oh, I'm sorry, you're sleeping. This book is about a detective named Rob. And Rob has a partner named Cassie. The author really went deep into character development for each of these characters, and I found them both really endearing. I felt like I was really attached to these characters, and I was a little sad when the book was over. There is a book after this one, but I don't think one of those two characters is in the sequel, so I don't know if I'm going to bother reading it. In this book, a 12-year-old has been murdered, and they're trying to find out who killed her. Rob has a past that keeps haunting him while he's trying to work with Cassie to solve this murder. And what that is when he was a child, him and 3 friends went into the woods, and he was the only one to come out, and the other 2 were never found, and he doesn't remember what happened, and it's caused a lot of turmoil in his life, being the lone survivor and not remembering what happened. And that case is a cold case. It's never been solved what happened to his 2 friends. This is a very slow burn book, and it feels really far-fetched at times. But the longer I really thought about what was happening or what happened or what didn't happen in the book, the more I felt like it's actually very realistic. It's just because certain authors go a certain way with certain things. I was expecting certain things to happen or certain things to be revealed, and it made it feel very weird. But the longer I thought about it, the more I realized this is more realistic, though. And the author was taking a risk by stepping outside of this safe zone that so many authors stay in and really trying to be more authentic. I found myself very fascinated by the character Rob. His reaction to things, his lack of reaction to things, his lack of emotion about things. He was just really, really fascinating, and I want to know more about him. I feel like I keep encountering books so far this year that have really fascinating characters that stand out to me and are in one way, shape, or form my favorite characters that I've read, which is interesting because the other year and a half that I've done YouTube, I really hadn't come across too many characters that were my favorites. But so far this year, just in the 3 months that we've been in 2023, I keep coming across amazing characters that I love. And it's just so sad to me, the past that Rob has, the flaws that he has, and how tortured he is by the past, and how much he just can't move on from the past. I thought this was a really, really, really good book, and I definitely recommend it if you are a fan of detective mysteries that are slow burns. And then up next, I just started listening to The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. And I love listening to books that I also physically have, so this has been really nice. But I do think that the audio version adds something special. I like hearing the voices with the accents, and I like that there's more than one narrator talking as well. I love it when authors do that. And then I have started my middle grade March, and the first book that I am reading is Wish by Barbara O'Connor. Be sure to tune in to my next vlog video. I will go over the different prompts for middle grade March and which books I've selected and what I've thought of them. And then I will also talk about the London Seance Society. I'm not sure if Olive will be awake in the next video or not, but she'll probably be in it since she's always in my vlogs. Let me know if you read any of these books or if you plan on reading any of these books. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Happy reading. Bye.